I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular council meeting of Monday, February the 12th. We are on the air. We're live, well not live, but we're on the air for everyone to hear. Can I have everyone's attention? We have with us to our far right, Frederic Bacal, our city clerk, Councillor David Torgman, Councillor Mike Cohen, Councillor Ruth Kovac, myself, I'm Mitchell Brownstein, your mayor, Dita Burko, Stephen Erdely, Mitch Kajavsky, the associate city managers, okay, first the manager, Tanya Abramovich, associate city managers, Nadia DeFuria and Jonathan Schechter. And I'd like to welcome you all here today. Wish you a happy Valentine's Day week. We had a beautiful Valentine's Day dance this Saturday. It was exceptional. We had people from all ethnic backgrounds. We even danced the hora and had kosher food. So, and we had lots of representatives from St. Richard's Church. It was just a wonderful, wonderful evening. Congratulations to the Parks and Recreation Department on that. And we continue our festivities this weekend for the Winter Carnival, which is going to be going on all weekend, and we hope we have the weather for it and have a really good time. I'd like to welcome Commander O'Malley. Thank you for being with us from Station 9. And before we go any further, we will start with question period, but I'm going to explain for those that are here and those that are viewing this beautiful ceremony of our council how question period runs so that we have it on video. So I spoke to my colleagues at the various mayors of the different cities to confirm how they run their council meetings in question period, and we all have the same rules more or less, and ours have been there for years. So the rules, for those who don't know it, are question period supposed to be 30 minutes. Anybody who wants to ask a question is supposed to have 3 minutes. They ask one question and they have a second question in response. So those are the rules. As mayor, I've always been very liberal, and I will continue to be as liberal as I can. But people should know what question period is. It's a place where people can ask a question. If they want to go further than just ask a question and get an answer, I am a full-time mayor. I am always here. Tanya Abramovich is our city manager. We're happy to meet with you and talk for an hour in our office and look at different responses to concerns or to finding ideas for new programs. This is not the place to go into that type of depth. This is a place to ask one question, have a follow-up question, and try to not just make some statements. Please come and visit me anytime. Email me, call me on the phone, visit me in my office. And come to our council meetings to ask questions and give us new ideas in your questions, but let's try to be efficient. Because my job as mayor, as the other mayors say, is also to run an efficient city and an efficient council meeting. And I spent this weekend reviewing 400 pages of documents for this meeting, and now I need to run an efficient meeting. So I'm sure everybody understands the rules, and we will call people, but I need the names. Do I have the names? Did people sign up? That's the other requirement, is you're supposed to sign up for questions. And on the second question period at the end of the council meeting, there you can only ask questions that are relate to the agenda. But at this question period, you can ask questions about anything, even if it's not on the agenda. So here we go with those who are registered. And our first one we have is, I don't recognize it. I recognize all the names. Welcome, Charles Guerin.
Hi, Mayor. Hi, council members. I just have one question, and that has to do with the upcoming challenge and I'd like the Smart City Challenge, which is something that has to be submitted by April 24th, I believe. And I'm curious to know what progress the city has made on the Smart City Challenge. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, the Smart City Challenge is an opportunity for any municipality to win a $50 million prize, or there's how many $10 million prizes? Two $10 million prizes. And it's a very exciting opportunity. And I thank you for the work that you've done so far. I saw your proposal on social media, and we are looking into it. We've been discussing it. The staff's been discussing it. The council's been discussing it, and we are looking into what would be a good way to move forward. I know that you had one meeting, which I watched. Very well done in terms of the committee, the Citizens for Open Government, where you discussed some ideas too. So we'll continue to work with you and with the residents and with council and see what we could come up with. And anything that you have, any great idea that you have that could make the city of Côte Saint-Luc win a prize of 10 million would be very, very exciting. So, yeah, we're definitely still looking into seeing what we can come up with. Thank you. Irving Itman. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that now that we videotape our council meetings, generally there's a requirement that we ask for people's addresses, but because we like to protect the private information of our residents, as long as I have this little card with your address on it, I'll give it to the city clerk. But you don't have to mention your address on tape. You could just say that you're a Côte Saint-Luc resident. And now I will go ahead. Irving Itman, which I know is a Côte Saint-Luc resident, and I know your address.
My reputation precedes me. Mayor Brownstein and Council, first of all, and thank you for the opportunity to ask the question. And thanks to Charles Guérin, I also viewed online his smart city, open data, etc., etc. I have two issues here, and I'll try to be as brief as possible. I'll start with page 5, okay? There are two issues. One is the STM shuttle or bus line that was initiated by Councillor Dita Burku as an idea a few years ago, I believe. And watching her at that meeting of data and open government, I was a little disappointed in her approach. And I'd like to know when that issue was brought up to the STM, what was the final conclusion, and then I have some comments afterwards.
Okay, well, you get one question and one follow-up. So I'm going to let Councillor Burko respond to your first question if she'd like, and then you can have a follow-up question.
Okay, so Mr. Itman, the STM has introduced into Côte Saint-Luc something called the Golden Shuttle. It's the 262.
Yeah, I'm talking about the one to the hospital area. Et
Right.
cetera.
So that Golden Shuttle, we saw that as an opportunity to meet with the STM and to ask them to kind of reroute to go towards the hospital district, because we know that our residents, and I actually did it this morning, I had to accompany someone for a test. We often go to the hospital district, you know, the Jewish General, the Saint Justine, the St. Mary's,
Right.
and all the medical offices that are around Côte d'Ivoire. And we met with them, we asked them if they would offer that service, and they absolutely refused. And the grounds that they give is that they can't cross to Carrie, there's too much traffic to cross to Carrie. And since then, we've asked them to add one stop on the actual shuttle, which goes to Agrignon, just to allow the residents of St. Patrick's Square to get across to the Walmart, and just to add one stop to that route was again refused, because now they're doing an in-depth study of the services, and they're not changing anything for the time being. So our next step is to go back to the STM in the context of their in-depth study, and come back to them with the best proposal, which would be to have a shuttle, because we do have one, but to reroute it towards the hospital district. Because we had a survey done, we had the Cummings Center seniors who were part of it, we have the results, and it's a matter of convincing the STM. It's basically what it is.
What am I allowed to say now, Mayor?
Ask me another question. That's the...
No, I'd like to discuss this. I'll leave the other question. I'd like to discuss this.
Listen, I'll be very lenient in any way, but I just want to explain to people, including yourself, what question period is. For us to be able to give you information. So if you have another question, we'd like to give you the answer. But if you want to say something, go ahead, Mr.
Okay, I appreciate that. I find that there lacks political clout. I've used this expression many times. I learned one expression from Councillor Dita Burkle many years ago when she was with the former Mayor Tremblay. Pour le bien-être de tout le monde, for the good of the people, of everyone, for the better. What was the word? For the better good of everyone. For le bien-être de tout le monde, exactly. I find that the stars are all lined up this time. We have federal, provincial, municipal representation. We have Marvin Rotran, who wants, I'm sure, to leave a little legacy. We have the West End, from Montreal West, Hampstead, Côte Saint-Luc, NDG, which will be beneficial to all the residents. There are many, many hospitals, clinics, x-ray places, and with the resulting traffic on Fleet, the Côte Saint-Luc Road, which is a disaster, I find that there has to be more passion, and it's time that we got together and really used our political clout.
So I will thank you for that, and I'll take that as a question, will we use our passion and our political clout? And I say yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
The other issue is the tempos, and I'm sure we'll discuss that at
We're
length.
working on it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, Lily Yesovich. Welcome.
Mayor, Council, particularly Tanya. I had a lovely meeting with Tanya. She's
Great.
a real benefit to the city. I want to say that in front of everybody because
Thank you.
I have a feeling you're her employer, so I want to compliment her on her wonderful work, and all of you on your wonderful work. I have one serious concern. My concern is always the ACC. It's always the same. What concerns me, I wrote it down because I wanted to be clear. I've been asking for figures and earnings of the ACC for a few months, and I'm concerned that you and your staff do not have these figures at your fingertips. How can you run a multi-million-dollar facility without knowing how many people go in and out, what it costs you, and what you earn at the end of the day? I've asked for figures, and I know I will get them. Tanya explained to me how long it takes and, access to information. What I don't understand is, how come you don't have this okay, I understand I don't have this information, but why is it that you don't have this information? The ACC is a $3 million business. I know you don't like the word business, but it's a $3 million facility that is losing $700,000 a year. So why is it that we don't have those figures at our fingertips when we need them?
First of all, the city of Côte Saint-Luc runs on, we don't lose any money anywhere because we have taxes. So it's not a business. If we lost money, we'd be in big trouble. We have a surplus, $6 million. So we don't lose money. How we make our money is a combination of revenue and taxes. In terms of the question, which was how come we don't have all the stats, is we do have a lot of stats. And as I said to you in the email and discussions, in our aim to have a better open government, we're trying to have better stats and break things down in a better fashion so that the public should be able to get those type of details online to the best of our ability. But everything's mixed in often. Like, you can have revenues from the ACC that come from 3 or 4 different areas that are under one GL number, and they're mixed together. And for staff to break them up in order to give it to the public is not so simple. So maybe in the future, our computer systems will allow us to break those GLs that have 4 things together into 4 things. But, we are where we are today, and we do have a lot. And I know in the Parks and Recreation report of this month, there are more stats coming out and more details, and things are getting broken down as much as we can.
I just want to impress upon you, as I've done before, how important I think it is that you have to have clear statistics on every department, on every division, and on everybody who runs in and out of the building. Because without that, you can't run the building efficiently.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, I thank you, and I'll ask thank you very much. And I will mention to the councillors when they do their departmental reports, if they speak today on the departmental reports, that they highlight some of the statistics that are in there, particularly in Parks and Recreation. Andre Zoldan.
Thank you. Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I want to say thank you to Tanya and to yourself for your kind replies to my emails and Orrin as well. I have 3 short questions. Question number 1 is the land which is presently at David Lewis and Clanranald. There's been some excavations over there. Can you just give me some insight as to whether it is zoned for what type of construction, at what point in time, or give me some background as to what's going on?
Okay, the land excavated David Lewis and Clanranald. I'm not 100% sure which project that's supposed to be.
There was supposed to be a project, but they dropped the project, I think, at one point.
I wouldn't know. Charles, yeah. Is there a project going on at that location? That is Charles Senecal, who's the director of engineering and urban planning.
Currently zoned residential, maximum of 12 stories, but we're waiting for a project. We think we might be receiving something in the planning advisory committee this year, early this year. So we're not sure exactly what the building will look like, but there's interest in that one.
So it's zoned for 12 stories then? Okay. So there's a buyer that's going ahead to build something over there?
Seems like it is.
We don't have an official proposal, is what he said. But you can speak only to the mayor. I'm allowed to address to him
Sorry.
if I have a question.
Okay.
To try and open government to include our staff to answer questions when they can.
Okay,
Mayor.
thank you.
Yes, Councillor Sabat.
I just wanted to, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to respond that what you've seen, the little bit of work was for a survey being done in the area. So I think there's blocks of snow that's been taken away.
Right.
So that was for survey purposes only.
I think there's a Dickie Moore trailer that arrived sometime today, or was circling, so.
Well, thank you for letting me know. I don't know about that, but
Okay. Just
Okay.
the second question is with regards to the lights on Cavendish North, turning into Cavendish Mall and making a left turn on Mackle. The restriction on that for left turns, is there anyone looking into that to try and change it to, I agree, advanced flashing left turn, but have a stop red light for the rest of the cycle seems to be really difficult.
Turning onto Mackle from Cavan.
Turning from Cavendish North, turning onto Avenue into the Cavendish Mall, and then off of Cavendish, turning onto Mackle.
So either into the avenue or into Mackle.
Right, those left turn lights are really murder, and I really find them wasteful in time. I mean, traffic going the opposite direction.
Too short or too long?
It shouldn't be there at all. That restrictive left turn light should not be there at all. You go down Fleet, you make a left turn on Netherwood Crescent. There's no restrictive left turn on Fleet, off of Fleet going onto Netherwood Crescent. Fleet going eastbound. That's a much more busy thoroughfare compared to Cavendish going south.
I don't know if that is possible or not, because it's not like it's just a one left turn with no other ongoing traffic. There's other ongoing traffic both on the avenue and on Mackle, but I will refer your question to engineering. I know they're working on synchronization.
Okay, my third question is, do we have any update regarding the famous Cavendish extension, which I hope will join the two Cavendishes and not wind up somewhere at the Carry Circle, which is completely...
We don't have an update. I did have a conversation with Mayor Plug last week to ask for an update, and she said that she would be inviting or having Councillor Caldwell, who's responsible now for the project, used to be in the other administration, Pierre de Rocher, and now someone else who's been elected and has been appointed to that file, will be calling a meeting. She's told me with all the players, meaning the mayors from all the various neighborhoods, as well as any of the other interested players, to give us an update on where we're at. And from what we've seen right now, we have two things that are in their budget. We have in the PTI in 2019, $7 million, in 2020, $6 million, and then it says a larger amount of $247 million after that. In their operating budget, it's stated that there is money that is being put aside this year in 2018 for feasibility studies, environmental studies, and continuing the negotiations with CP and CN for the purchase of the land. So it sounds to me, from my meetings with the previous administration, pretty similar to what was going on before Mayor Plante was elected. Our concern is that we want to make sure that the project is going to move forward, so we need to push these meetings in order for it to go forward. And I was pleased that Mayor Plante agreed to invite all the players to an update in the coming month or so.
So has there been a defined route, or that's still to be discussed?
Oh, in terms of the route, there hasn't been any change on the route. It's an indirect route that goes from one side, our side, one side to Royal Mount, and the other side to Jean Talon. Jean Talon, Royal Mount, and then there's a connection between Jean Talon and Royal Mount. So you don't have to go to Carry. You just have to go to one of those
Royal Mount.
And then Royal Mount, and then it connects to Jean Talon, and Jean Talon connects to the other side of Cavendish.
But is not the objective to get down the other side of Côte de Liesse, or to get to Côte de Liesse, avoiding the Carry Circle?
You would avoid the Carry Circle. You won't have to go near the Carry Circle, because you go to...
The end of Royal Mount.
It goes the end of
Oh,
Royal
the
Mount.
opposite end of Royal Mount.
Yeah. Our side of Royal Mount, closer to the yard.
Oh, okay, so that'll connect to Ville Saint-Laurent.
It would connect to the, it could go to,
Ville Saint-Laurent, Côte de Liesse.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. If there are no further questions, we will move to item number 2, which is approval of the minutes. Councillor Kovac.
So, Mr. Mayor, the minutes for the regular meeting of January the 15th, January the 24th, and a special meeting January 24th, and a special meeting of January the 29th.
Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. That's the minutes. She passed all the minutes.
Yes, that's perfect. I just wanted to ask Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yes, I'd like to, add. We want to add something to the agenda.
That is correct.
Okay, I'd like to have a motion to adopt a change to the agenda, to add an item. So, Councillor Kovac, and the item would be, it would be added to item number 14, other business, adoption of an agreement with Urgence Santé. So to add that to the agenda, moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Sabag, all in favor? Anyone opposed? So that is added to the agenda. Thank you. And now we move to item number 3, business arising from the minutes. And item number 4, monthly department reports. Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Kajab. Any discussion? Councillor Torchman.
On our public library, I keep stating that it's a phenomenal library. Our numbers have risen. There's been an uptick in the last month on membership and circulation. Upcoming events, there's a coding course for 8 to 12-year-old kids. It's a really interesting computer coding club that's been started, where we've been delivering books to daycares. So there's an outreach program from our library. So it's not only a library that people come to, we go to them as well. And coming soon is an iPad lending station that's going to be available to residents if they want to use an iPad. So phenomenal services are available at the library. I urge you, if you haven't visited recently, please go. Young and old, it's really a great resource for all the citizens.
Thank you, Councillor Torchman. Anyone else? Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In terms of park and recreation, I just wanted to let people know that we have a Heart Saver AED, automatic external defibrillation courses, that will be given on February the 21st, March the 12th, and April the 8th. And something that has always been very important to myself is that every member of, at least one member of every family should know how to do CPR, save a heart, save a life. It could be your child, it could be your parent, your sister, your sibling. But this is really something that you should take to heart and avail yourself of it. It's reasonably priced and offered at the Parks and Recreation Department, and something that I urge everyone to do. In terms of the aquatic center, we've had an increase in the rentals. We've actually gone up for the month of January last year to this year, we've gone up 161% in our rentals. We have, for registration, 447 registrations were done in the month of January. 375 were done in person, and we're moving more to going online. 72 have done it online. We have new accounts that have been created, first-time users of our online account. Our fun cards have gone up in sales. So there's a lot happening at the Aquatic Center for every age group, and I encourage people to come and visit. You'll be receiving in the very short future your new Parks and Recreation booklet, which will describe to you all the services that are available to you, including the summer camp and registration. Watch for it. It'll be posted on social media, on our website. You'll be receiving it in your mailboxes. And get involved. Participate in those things that your tax dollars are paying for, and you'll see the value of it. People have come to know the library for everything that it offers. Many of you still have not visited the Aquatic Center, the Community Center, and know what it offers you. So I encourage everyone to get involved and participate and avail yourself of all the wonderful programs.
Thank you, Councillor Kovac. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start with the finance side.
We've been very busy over the last few weeks on finalizing the budget. I want to say a special thank you to Angelo Marino, our treasurer, for all his hard work. As many of you know, of course, we had to do major changes to the budget in early January based on the changes that were passed on, or the increased code part, which we didn't expect from the agglomeration. We were able to produce a budget, and we're in the process of sending out or preparing the tax bills. So just to let residents know, because this has come up, people seem to ask me at the pool or the arena. So the tax bills were delayed this year. Normally, we would have sent them out by now, but the tax bills will be going out on February or by February 21st. The first installment will be due on March 23rd, and the second installment will be due on June 21st. So again, this is because normally we receive our quote par, or we receive the amount of money which we owe to Montreal by early December. This year we only found out the amount on January 10th, about a month late. So that's why we're about 3 weeks late to send out our tax bills, because we had to wait till we had that information, till we adopted our final budget and tax rate to send the tax bills to print, but they will be sent out shortly. To share a few items, I just also want to mention with regard to tax sales, and this is something that's come up in the past. So we, every year around this time, finalize the outstanding tax payments, and that's for bills that are due from 2016. So these are tax bills that are 2 years old. We started just not so long ago. There were about 100. Now they're down to 5. And we are in close contact with the different residents, their mortgage companies, and so on. So by the time the tax sale would occur on February 23rd, we hope, of course, to be to zero. We have not, in the last 12 years, had to sell a property, and of course, we hope not to do that again this year. To switch to the environmental side, so I have the almost final numbers on diversion, so we just have to wait technically till mid-March, till the agglomeration, authorizes them and makes them official, but to share the preliminary numbers, so I'll start with comparing 2017 to 2016. So if we look, for example, at organic waste collection, we're up approximately 25%. That is the total organic waste collection dropped at curbside, plus what's dropped at the public works yard. So we're up 25% compared to last year. If we look at our total diversion rate, it's up about 10% compared to last year. And if we look at the big picture, comparing over the last 10 years, so from 2007 to 2017, our total diversion went from just under 2,000 metric tons, so 1,902 metric tons, to almost 6,500, so 6,485 metric tons, an increase of 241%, so we more than tripled the tonnage. With regard to the amount of tons that are going to landfill, when we started back in 2007, just before we introduced organic waste collection, we were almost at 12,000 metric tons, so the number was 11,746. We are now still under 8,000 tons, so 7,987, for a reduction of roughly 33%. So in the last 10 years, we've more than tripled the tonnage that is diverted, and we've cut down by a third the tonnage going to landfill, and that's in spite of course, the fact that the population of Côte Saint-Luc has increased. We have more homes, we have more people living here, but yet we still managed to bring down the total tonnage going to landfill, and of course improve our diversion rate, and we hope to continue doing that, of course, for many years to come. And that's it for my report for today.
Thank you, Councillor Italy. Anyone else? Councillor Cullen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just on the category of animal protection, the Côte Saint-Luc Cats Committee has been active in the winter, sadly. I say that very sadly, that there are poor newborn eggs that we're finding in the cold. We found a few in Councillor Sabac's district on Tommy Douglas. 3 of them that are now now being taken care of and being socialized, and we're very close to finding homes for the 3 of them. Little babies. It's just sad to know that there are so many, perhaps hundreds out there that we don't know, we don't find them, and we can't help them. Our Facebook page is now at 582 people, so there's a lot of action, a lot of interest. In terms of the dogs committee, the new dogs committee that we're forming, I met with the group last week again, and we had a very successful meeting. A small number of people showed up. We're now looking to create district captains who will kind of lead the way within their district, and we have a number of ideas that we're putting forth, so we feel that we're going to be making a lot of progress in that dossier in the months to come. Also, coming to council very soon will be a bylaw which will be presented to In public affairs and communications, we will be advertising very soon for a full-time webmaster. This is something that we have not had for a number of years at Côte Saint-Luc. It's a position that's been basically fulfilled by Darrell Levine on top of his multiple other responsibilities. So by having a full-time webmaster, we'll be able to make a lot more information available to the public. And so we're hoping that that will be looked at and taken care of in the next month or two. And one other thing is I'm happy to want to thank the traffic department and the traffic committee for assisting us on Park Place. Park Place is a street for some reason a lot of cars like to be tourists. They drive up and down Park Place, which is really they go in and they go out. It's a dead end. And one of the problems we've been having is because of the construction, because of the traffic on the avenue and the Econo Fitness, there's been a lot of U-turns in that area, which has been very dangerous. And so we have just put up a no U-turn sign in front of Park Place, and the residents are very relieved and very happy with that. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Anyone else? Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor of the departmental reports? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And we move to item number 5A, Councillor Torchman.
I give notice for a motion that bylaw 2507 to be entitled Bylaw Creating the Fee Schedule for the Eleanor London Côte Saint-Luc Public Library for April 2018 to August 2018 period will be presented at a later meeting for adoption.
Okay, and
Yes, I just want to mention that the object and the scope of the bylaw is to create the fee schedule for activities that will be hosted by Eleanor London Côte Saint-Luc Public Library for April 2018 to August 2018.
thank you. So now that it is, notice of motion is given and tabled by Councillor Torchman. You have to do the tabling?
So,
Yeah, now you have to do the tabling.
so I'm tabling the draft bylaw 2507 to be entitled Bylaw Creating the Fee Schedule for the Eleanor London Côte Saint-Luc Public Library for April 2018 to August 2018 period.
Thank you, Councillor Torchman. Item 5B, Councillor Torchman.
Que le conseil municipal de Côte Saint-Luc octroie un contrat de biens et de services à EBSCO Canada Limited pour l'année civile 2018 pour aider la ville à gérer ses abonnements périodiques et fournir des bases de données à la ville pour un montant de 21 850 $ plus les taxes applicables. Que le certificat de trésorier numéro 18-0016 a été émis le 8 janvier 2018 par le trésorier de la ville attestant la disponibilité des fonds pour couvrir les dépenses décrites.
Proposé par le conseiller Torchman, appuyé par le conseiller Cohen. Est-ce qu'il y a des discussions? So this is for the yearly subscription for our periodical.
Here.
How do you pronounce that?
Periodical.
Periodical. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried, and we move to item 5C, Councillor Torchman.
That the Côte Saint-Luc City Council award a service contract for 2018 to Reliure Travaction pursuant to section 573.3(4) of the Cities and Towns Act to bind a selection of paperback edition books for an amount not to exceed $12,000 plus applicable taxes, and acknowledge a purchase order to be opened in this regard. That the Treasurer Certificate number 18-0017 dated January 8, 2018 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Torchman, seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any discussion? Councillor Torchman.
This is a service that the library has to essentially rebind soft cover books. There's a huge circulation of these books, and therefore, by doing this, we extend the life of the books.
Thank you. All in favor? All in favor? Anyone opposed? So Stephen, you're in favor. I guess I just missed the hand. Okay. Carried unanimously, and we do move on to item D. Councillor Torchman, 5D.
Que le Conseil autorise par la présente la Ville de Côte Saint-Luc à présenter une demande d'aide financière au ministère de la Culture et des Communications dans le cadre du programme Aide aux projets pour les projets en développement des collections des bibliothèques publiques autonomes pour l'année budgétaire 2018-2019. Que Janine West, directrice de la bibliothèque, ou, en son absence, Lisa Milner, gestionnaire administrative et sélection de soutien de la bibliothèque, soit et par la présente autorisée à signer tous les documents ayant trait à cette demande, en particulier l'entente qui doit être signée avec le ministère de la Culture et des Communications, et que la présente résolution soit approuvée pour son action immédiate.
Proposé par le conseiller Torchman, appuyé par le conseiller Cohen. Est-ce qu'il y a des discussions? Le conseiller Torchman.
This is relative to a grant that the city gets from the Quebec government for approximately $72,000 a year.
Excellent. Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move on to item number 6A. Councillor Erdely.
Be it resolved that bylaw 2498, entitled Bylaw 2498, authorizing a loan of $315,000 for the replacement of various sidewalk sections belonging to the City of Côte Saint-Luc, be and is hereby adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. So this does not need to be seconded. None of these have to be seconded?
Oh, no, they do.
They do?
Yeah. He's-
Seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion?
So just to mention briefly for this bylaw and all the subsequent bylaws, so this is the first step. Obviously, just to clarify the process for those that are new, in spite of this, of course, the city will still have to go to tender for these projects. They'll be receiving, let's say for each project, we'll receive multiple bids, ideally. At that point, generally go with the lowest bidder unless there's a process to review the different bids and a point system. And at that point, the city may decide to go with those tenders, one of the tenders, or not, or one of the proposed bids or not. But this just allows us to begin the process. So the first one, just to mention again, is for sidewalk. In the last 3 years, the city has I should say, redone approximately 7,200 meters of sidewalks over the last 3 years. Our engineering department reviews all the sidewalks in the city and gives them let's say, a point system based on worst to best. And obviously the goal is to continue to replace the worst sidewalks in the section of the city, and we've done quite a good job of that over the last few years, and we're going to continue doing that in the coming year.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Item B, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Bylaw 2499, entitled Bylaw 2499, authorizing a loan of $578,000 for the purchase and replacement of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system, HVAC, for the City Hall, situated at 5801 Cavendish Boulevard, Phase 2B, and is hereby adopted.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion?
So just to mention briefly, over the last few years, as you probably noticed, we've spent quite a lot of money on the City Hall complex, mostly redoing the bricks. We've replaced the bricks on the cooling tower and on the library side. We still have the bricks on this side, but when we were in the process of redoing the bricks for the cooling tower, one of the things we noticed was that the HVAC system was in poor shape. Since then, we've done some minor repairs, but the more minor repairs we did, the more we noticed that there's a need for a major overhaul for the HVAC system, for the heating, ventilation, air conditioning system. So that will be done in the coming year.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Item C, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Bylaw 2400, entitled Bylaw 2500, authorizing a loan of $505,000 for the purchase and installation of various traffic lights on Cavendish Boulevard corridor and professional services for LED streetlights in various locations in the territory of the City of Côte Saint-Luc, be and is hereby adopted.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Kobach. Any discussion?
So just to mention briefly, this is covering two projects, one of which is to do work on the traffic lights on the Cavendish Boulevard. The traffic lights basically are not in terrible shape. However, one of the things we noticed, the sensors that were placed on the road have decayed over time and need to be replaced, and this enables the city to be smarter in the sense of controlling traffic patterns. So that is part of the project, and the other part is for professional services for LEDs. City of Côte Saint-Luc has approximately 3,000 streetlights, and the goal is to contact a consultant who will help us to try to find the best way to replace our streetlights with LEDs, and hopefully to find some grants from either the provincial or federal government as well.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously, and now we move to item D. Councillor Ridley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that bylaw 2501, entitled Bylaw 2501, authorizing a loan of $841,000 for the purchase of heavy vehicles, trucks, as well as any heavy vehicle equipment, be and is hereby adopted.
Moved by Councillor Ridley, seconded by Councillor Bag. Any discussion?
So just to mention, this is for the purchase of a 10-wheel dump truck that will replace a vehicle from 1995, a loader slash snow blower, replacing one that was a 1991 loader and a 2005 snow blower, for a sidewalk cleaner replacing Bombardier, replacing a 1973 model, and for a tractor with salt spreader replacing a 1999 vehicle. And I just want to take a moment, if I may, to mention, since I know there's been a lot of discussion about snow removal, one of the things Côte Saint-Luc has done over the last few years is we spent a lot of money on replacing some of our old snow blowers. When I started not so long ago, our snow blowers dated from the 60s and 70s. And in the last few years, we replaced all those snow blowers. We retired the last one, a 1973 model this year. So now, and with this new purchase that will be done in 2018, all of our snow blowers will be from 2010 on. So 2010, 2014, 15, 16, and 17. And one of the reasons, in my opinion, that Côte Saint-Luc is doing snow removal so much better is because we've invested in that infrastructure, whereas some of our neighboring cities have not necessarily done that. Because of that, we've had a lot less equipment breaking down, and we've been able to, of course, meet the needs of our residents.
Absolutely, absolutely. Historically, you would always hear during a snowstorm that this truck broke or that truck broke, and it was in the shop, and then we would really be slowed down. And now with all these new vehicles, we're able to continue operations without these breakdowns, which is really improving our efficiency, as people can clearly see from the work that's been done by our Public Works Department. So moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to item E, Councillor Ridley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that bylaw 2502, entitled Bylaw 2502, authorizing a loan of $279,000 for the purchase of vehicles, be and is hereby adopted.
Moved by Councillor Ridley, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion?
So just to mention, this is for the purchase of 2 pickup trucks, replacing a 2004 and 2007 model, for the purchase of a Madback, replacing a 2004 model. Madback, for those that don't know, is the small vehicle that has a giant vacuum cleaner on it that's used to drive along the streets and sidewalks. And from what I understand, we're looking at an electric model as well to add another electric vehicle to our fleet. And we have a 6-wheel dump truck replacing a 2004 model that is being retired.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Item F, Councillor Ridley.
Just 1 second. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that bylaw 2503, entitled Bylaw 2503, authorizing a loan of $262,000 for the purchase and planting various trees on Cavendish Boulevard and within other parts of the territory of the City of Côte Saint-Luc, be and is hereby adopted.
Moved by Councillor Ridley, seconded by Councillor Kajowski. Any discussion?
So just to mention briefly, over the last few years, Côte Saint-Luc, of course, has been trying to catch up with regard to the trees. So if you look at the last few years, we've planted about 635 trees. However, we've cut down well over 1,000 trees because of the Emerald Ash Forest, so we have quite a bit of catch-up to do. And of course, partly with some of the funds through this bylaw, we'll be able to hopefully continue to plant trees for this coming year and, of course, many years to come.
Thank you, Councillor Ridley. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And we move to item G, Councillor Ridley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that bylaw 2504, entitled Bylaw 2504, authorizing a loan of $457,000 for various facility upgrades for Trudeau Park, be and is hereby adopted.
Moved by Councillor Ridley, seconded by Councillor Kajowski. Any discussion?
So just to mention, this is for some additional upgrades to Trudeau Park, including some purchases for the scoreboard for the baseball field. It will also be to to have some sun coverage for the play area as well.
Shading.
Some shading, thank
Sun
you.
shading,
Some
excellent.
shading for the play area as well.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Item H, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that bylaw 2505, entitled bylaw 2505, authorizing a loan of $4,500,000 for the rehabilitation of the Samuel Moskowitz Arena, be and is hereby adopted.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Kudowski. Any discussion, Councillor
So
Erdely?
just to mention, this is to replace the cooling system for the Samuel Moskowitz Arena. For those that don't know, as per provincial law, by 2020, all arenas in the province of Quebec must replace their coolant to more energy efficient and more environmentally friendly option. So this is for the loans for that. I should mention we are receiving a grant of approximately $1 million from the provincial government, which we're very happy about, and we're applying for an additional grant, which will be later on the agenda tonight.
Right, but it's not only for the cooling system, it's also for
True.
renovations to the arena to bring it up to modern standards.
Yes.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And we move to item I, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby authorizes the membership renewal with the Union des Municipalités de Québec, including the fee for the Capitole du Capital Humain, for a period covering January 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2018, in the amount of $28,408.65 plus applicable taxes, and that Treasurer's Certificate number 18-0059, dated February 8th, 2018, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion?
So just to mention briefly, we have been part of the Union des Municipalités de Québec for many years, and it's an organization that has been very helpful with regard to group tenders, with regard to legal advice, and so on. And this is for the membership fee for the upcoming year.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move on to item J, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council authorizes access to an operating line of credit for amounts of $17 million from the Royal Bank of Canada for the period of February 13th, 2018 to June 21st, 2018, and that the Mayor and the City Treasurer be authorized to sign all documents required by the Royal Bank of Canada pertaining to the line of credit, and that said resolution shall be for immediate action.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion, Councillor Erdely?
So just to explain briefly, as I alluded to earlier, this year we are about a month behind with regard to getting the information from the agglomeration and sending out our tax bills. Now, this is a similar situation to what occurred in 2009 and 2013, where again, after those elections, the Montreal agglomeration was late to send us the information as to how much we owed. The difference, though, after the 2009 and 2013 elections, because on both those occasions they were about a month late, the agglomeration said that Côte Saint-Luc could pay its first installment of the Côte Car a month late as well. So keep in mind, normally the tax bills are due March 1st. Those years, it was pushed back a month to April 1st. However, this year, for whatever reason, which we're not very happy with, the agglomeration said no, that they would not push back the deadline in spite of the fact that they were a month late. What this means is that Côte Saint-Luc will most likely not have the $14.5 million it requires for the first payment, which again is going to be due on March 1st. So that is why we've contacted the Royal Bank of Canada for a credit line. Luckily, we were able to get a decent rate. However, there's still the potential that this is going to cost us up to approximately $24,000. Now, the hope is once residents start paying their tax bills, we'll have more funds and we'll be able to slowly pay that off over that approximately 3-week period from March 1st to March 23rd. But obviously, we're not happy. I know the mayor has spoken to the agglomeration council and to Mayor Plante about this, and obviously, we hope that they will acquiesce. But of course, as to this point, it seems that will not happen. Thank you.
So you will be receiving your tax bills. We're mailing them out February 21st. So you'll be receiving them in the days after. And if you all pay by March 1st, we won't have to loan any money. So pay your bills on time, and then we will be able to pay down our line of credit and not pay any interest. But of course, we're giving you until March 23rd to pay your tax bills, but we would encourage all residents that can, to pay their tax bills before March 1st. Before March 1st. So that way we would be able to pay down our line of credit and not have to loan any money. Moved and seconded.
I have a question.
You have a question? Go ahead.
Although it's a rhetorical question, I would like you to go to the Association of Suburban Mayors and ask them if they would all charge back to the City of Montreal the interest charges that we're incurring on their behalf. And I think that if all 17 municipalities made that proposition, it might carry some weight. But I think it's something that we should be looking, at least talking about.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And we move on to item, that was
6K.
6K. Councillor Italy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the attached list of disbursements for the period of January 1st, 2018 to January 31st, 2018 for a total amount of $4,371,134.54 in Canadian funds, and the Treasurer's Certificate number 18-0058 dated February 8th, 2018 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Italy, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion?
So just to mention some of the larger items in this month's disbursements, we have some payments for snow removal for our two big contractors, for our water contractor. There's also some payments for last projects that took place in 2017, including payments, some of the payments for the Cavendish Underpass, the sidewalk project in 2017, and some payments that were still due for the Trudeau Park renovations from last year.
Thank you, Councillor Italy. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to 6L, the last one in finance. 6L, Councillor Italy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just looking at which one I do first.
Let's see.
I'll do the adjudication first. Okay.
Yeah.
Be it resolved that the preamble of this resolution be an integral part of it as if it were reproduced in full, that the bond issued in the amount of $2,181,000 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc be awarded to the firm Financière Banque Nationale, Inc., that a request be made to the aforementioned firm to mandate the Canadian Depository for Securities Limited to register this issue in the book-based system, that CDS shall be acting as the registrar for the book-based system, bond holding officer, and paying officer in charge of the transactions for the members as described in the Memorandum of Understanding signed with the Minister of Municipal Affairs of Quebec and CDS, that CDS will perform fund transfers in accordance with legal requirements regarding bonds. In this regard, the Council authorizes the Treasurer to sign the document authorized by the Canadian banking system entitled Authorization for a Banking Pre-Authorized Debit Plan, and that the Mayor and the Treasurer be authorized to sign the bonds covered by this issue or one bond per maturity date.
Moved by Councillor Italy, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion?
So just to mention, what's happening now is we have a bond that was issued back in, I guess about 10 years ago, back in 2007, 2008, for projects that were done at that time. It includes, just to give some examples, purchase for vehicles, replacement of fire hydrants, renovations, some renovations to City Hall, playground equipment, roads and sidewalks, and so on. So these are projects that were done back in 2007 that we had borrowed or basically financed a loan for. That loan is up for renewal, just like if someone, let's say, has a mortgage on their home, every 5 to 10 years it's up for renewal. So this is to renew it. Just to share when we factor in the rates change every year, but it goes from a rate of 1.8% to 2.5%. And if we factor in the real cost, including all the service fees and so on, it works out to approximately 2.77%, which is still quite a good rate. As I mentioned to the Treasurer, I thought it was going to be more in the range of 3 to 3.5, so I'm quite happy with the rate we got given the interest rates that are going on right now in the country.
Moved by Councillor Italy and seconded by Councillor Kovac. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And now we move to the resolution.
So, next resolution. Be it resolved that the loan bylaws mentioned in the first paragraph of the preamble be financed by bonds in accordance with the following. The bonds, one bond per maturity, will be dated February 27, 2018. Interest will be payable semi-annually on February 27th and August 27th of each year. The bonds will not be redeemable in advance. However, they may be redeemed with the consent of the holders in accordance with the Act regarding municipal debts and loans. The bonds will be registered in the name of the Canadian Depository for Securities Limited, CDS, and filed with it. CDS shall act on behalf, of its members as a registrar for the book-based system, bond-holding officer and paying officer in charge of the transaction for the members as described in the agreement protocol signed by the Minister of Municipal Affairs of Quebec and CDS. CDS will proceed with the transfer of funds according to the legal requirements of the bonds, and for that purpose, Council authorizes the Treasurer to sign the documents required by the Canadian banking system entitled Autorisation pour le plan de débit préautorisé destiné aux entreprises. CDS will make payments of principal and interest to members through electronic funds transfers. For this purpose, CDS will direct withdrawals the required amounts from the following account: Royal Bank of Canada at the corner of Cavendish and Kildare, that the bond shall be signed by the Mayor and the Treasurer. The City of Côte Saint-Luc, as entitled by law, has mandated CDS to act as its fiscal authenticator agent, and the bonds will only become valid once they have been authenticated, and that with regard to the annual depreciation of capital planned for the years 2024 and following, the future terms of the following loan bylaws, numbers 2264, 2265, 2269, and 2274, shorter than that originally fixed, i.e. for a term of 5 years, as of February 27, 2018, instead of the prescribed term for such authorization, each subsequent issue being for the balance or part of the balance due on the loan. That take into account the bond issues for February 27, 2018, the original term of the loan bylaws number 22, 55, 59, 60, 63, 64, 65, 69, and 74 be extended by 15 days.
Moved by Councillor Early, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion?
So just to mention, as I stated earlier, every 5 years we renew these bonds. So even though some of these, I believe, were originally for 20 years, so there should be theoretically 10 years left, we renew them for 5 years, and of course in 5 years from now, we will renew them again for another 5 years.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move on to Human Resources. 7A, Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the hiring of the white-collar auxiliary employees whose names are listed on the document entitled Auxiliary Employees, White Collars Hiring, dated January the 31st, 2018, and that said employee's term of employment will be as per the conditions of the collective agreement. The Treasurer's Certificate number 18-0038, dated February 5, 2018, has been issued by the City Treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses, and this is for the hiring of 8 lifeguard instructors for the winter season at our indoor pool.
Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any further discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to 7B, Councillor Burku. 7B.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc Council approves the hiring of Piero Genduso as a building inspector, white-collar permanent position in the Urban Development Department, effective February 5th, 2018, and that the Treasurer's Certificate has been issued attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion?
Yeah, so this is a new hire. He's already worked in the department, and he's been trained, and he will be a building inspector, which is quite needed as we have quite a few projects ongoing and more projects coming down the pipeline. So we're happy to welcome Piero, and we look forward to seeing his integration into the Urban Development Department.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Item 7C, Councillor Burku.
Yes. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby approve the termination of employment of blue-collar auxiliary employee number 2360, effective January 22nd, 2018.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion?
Well, it's a blue-collar employee who was not respecting the collective agreement. Anyway, okay.
Yeah, because when it's HR and it's termination, we try to keep the confidentiality of the individual as much as possible.
Well-
That's why there's just a number
That's
of the
right.
employee.
Okay.
Okay, so moved and seconded, all in favor? All in favor, anyone opposed? Carried, and now we move to item D, Councilor Burke.
Okay, so be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc Council approves the termination of employment of white-collar auxiliary employee with the employee number 2636 and 1002636, effective December 20th, 2017.
So moved by Councilor Burku, seconded by Councilor Kovac. Once again, it's a termination of an employee with a number to protect their confidentiality.
This is a white-collar worker.
It's a white-collar termination. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Okay, and now we move to item D, which is legal services, 8A, I should say. 8A, Councilor Kovac.
This is just to table the correspondence from the municipality of Cascapedia Saint-Jules, and it has to do with the Bonjour High resolution that was read out here at our previous council meeting declaring the city a Bonjour High community, and the municipality of Cascapedia has done likewise, and I'm hoping that more will participate as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kovac. So that's the tabling, and now we move on to 8B, which is Councilor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby authorizes the city to pay an invoice amounting to $19,890.20 plus applicable taxes from the firm of Bélanger Sauvé for the case entitled Immeuble Canadien Pacific et al. Versus City of Côte Saint-Luc, bearing docket number 500-05-07-2299-025, and that treasurer certificate number TC 18-0015, dated January 3rd, 2018, has been issued by the city treasurer, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses, and that said funds shall be extracted from GL account 02-140-01416, entitled Professional Services Legal, then ultimately has come out of GL account. Oh, okay, shall ultimately come out of GL account 05171, entitled Reserve for Lawsuits. Okay.
Okay, moved by Councilor Erdely, seconded by Councilor, who's going to second this? Councilor Sabag. Any discussion? Councilor
So just to mention briefly, this is to our legal firm, Bélanger Sauvé, that is representing the city in the case regarding Meadowbrook. This is a long-standing case that goes back to 2002 that was dormant for many years, but is no longer dormant.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. With Parks and Recreation, Councilor Kovac, 9A.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the council hereby exercises the two-year option, I think this is the second year, under tendered contract C18-1719 in respect of the preparation, the resurfacing, and maintenance of the Côte Saint-Luc Tennis Club courts located at 8215 Guelph Road, previously awarded to PC Court Inc., and this for the years 2018 and 19 for a total amount of $50,060 plus applicable taxes. That treasurer's certificate TC 18-0053 dated February the 8th, 2018 has been issued by the city treasurer to attest to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses for the 2018 year. That a treasurer's certificate will be issued at the beginning of 2019 to attest to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses for the 2019 year.
Moved by Councilor Kovac, seconded by Councilor Kajaski. Any discussion? Okay, so this speaks for itself. It's a maintenance and service contract for Côte Saint-Luc Tennis Club. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And we move to item 10. Councilor Sabag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to give notice of motion that bylaw 2497, to be entitled Bylaw Concerning Contract Management, will be presented at a later meeting for adoption, and therefore I'd like to table that.
And the object of the bylaw is contract management, and the scope is establishing a contract management policy for the City of Côte Saint-Luc as required by Bill 120. 2022. So now that it has been given a notice of motion and tabled, is there any further discussion that anyone wants to add? This is the management policy that we will follow for dealing with contract management, and it's detailed and available. Okay, and now we move to item number 11, Urban Development Engineering Division, Mitch Kajowski, Councilor Kajowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the city hereby approves the change order for additional works under project C-07-17P for professional services for the rehabilitation of Parkhaven outdoor pools and Yitzhak Rabin Park Pond, and authorize the payment of an amount not to exceed $32,000 plus applicable taxes to GBI Service d'Ingénierie, previously Baudouin Hearings, Inc., that the described expenses shall be financed from loan bylaw 2488, previously approved by the Ministère des Affaires municipales et Occupation du Territoire, and that the city treasurer has issued a treasurer certificate TC 18-0055 on February 8, 2018, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councilor Kajowski, seconded by Councilor Kovac. Any discussion, Councilor Kajowski?
Just very briefly, this is for additional professional services to design the new filtration systems for both the outdoor pool, Parkhaven Pool, and the wading pool at Parkhaven Pool.
Okay. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. We move on to item B, Councilor Kajowski.
Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby authorizes the Director of Urban Development and the City Managers to submit an application for a grant request under the Programme de soutien aux installations sportives et récréatives, phase 4 du Ministère de l'Éducation et de l'Enseignement supérieur, that the city will disperse all its portion of the capital and operating costs associated with the redevelopment of the Edward J. Kerwin Park in the city of Côte Saint-Luc.
Moved by Councilor Kajowski, seconded by Councilor Torgman. Any discussion? So this here is the other item that we were talking about earlier, dealing with the ability to ask for a grant. And we're going to be asking for a grant which would be covered up to 50%, that would cover the arena renovations and the refrigeration of the annex. We're estimating something, if we do that entire project, of around perhaps $7 million, which at 50% would be $3.5 million, giving us the ability to have really a state-of-the-art arena and outdoor annex. So we're hopeful, and that's what this is about. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And now we move to item C, Councilor Kajowski.
Be it resolved that the city hereby approves the change order for additional works under project C-45-15 for professional services related to the rehabilitation of the Côte Saint-Luc pump station, and authorizes payment of an amount not to exceed $27,303.46 plus applicable taxes to GBI Service d'Ingénierie, that the described expenses shall be financed in full from bylaw 2443
No.
previously.
Oh,
Pardon?
from the water
Water
reserve.
Am I?
So
No, we're at C, no?
we're at C now.
Yeah, sorry, there's a change.
The water reserve.
But, Councilor Early was going to do it, right?
Oh.
Do you want to do it?
No, no,
No, just say
Yeah,
the,
you'll second.
just say the water
just
reserve.
from the water reserve.
Shall be financed in
Okay, where?
whole from the water reserve,
Shall be financed in whole.
from the water reserve.
From this one.
Okay, so that the described expenses shall be financed in full from the water reserve? Okay, period?
Yeah.
Okay, that the city treasurer has issued, city treasurer certificate? Okay, so the city treasurer has issued treasurer certificate number TC 18-0043 on February 7, 2018, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councilor Kajowski, seconded by Councilor Early. Any discussion? Councilor Early.
So if I may, just to share, so first, just want to mention in general, this was a project that was completed, most of it was done in 2016, but the final provisional acceptance in 2017. And in the last few years, Côte Saint-Luc has replaced the pump stations at all three of our underpasses. We did the one at Westminster, at Cavendish, and Côte Saint-Luc Road. This one took a bit longer because we had to negotiate with the City of Montreal for them to pay half of the project. And even just to mention, this bill for $27,000 or so, half of which will be paid by the City of Montreal, so we're happy about that. Just to mention, there were some extras because they had to make some changes to the electrical connection. There were some issues with the plastering inside and humidity, but overall, not huge extras. And again, we're happy that all three of the underpasses have new pump stations. God forbid we get a major rainfall, and I always get my year mixed up, the July 14th, 1987. I was getting mixed up if it's 87 or 89. If we get another flood like the July 14th, 1987 rainfall, hopefully, of course, the city will be protected, and all three of our underpasses have new pumps, and of course, Côte Saint-Luc will not be cut off from the rest of the island of Montreal.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And now we move to item D, Councilor Kajaski.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the city hereby amends resolution number 170531 to add the amount of $100 per linear meter to the additional 2,965.50 linear meters of sleeving for an amount of $296,550 to be added to the original amount of the contract of $232,500 for a total amount of $529,050 plus applicable taxes. That the described expenses shall be financed from the loan bylaw 2459 approved in 2015 by the Mammoth. That the loan bylaw 2459 shall be reimbursed from the tech funds. That the city treasurer has issued treasurer certificates. CC, do I have it?
Just say treasurer
The
has been issued,
has issued a treasurer certificate.
Issued a treasurer certificate
attesting to availability
attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Actually, you have it here, 180040.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Councilor Kajaski, seconded by Councilor Erdely. Any discussion?
As to mention very briefly, this is an additional or adjustment to professional fees for the contractor that's doing our sewer sleeving. After passing camera tests, it was discovered that 16 additional sewer conduits were required to be sleeved.
And this is all covered at 100% by the tech grants. 100% grantable. Any other discussion? Councilor Erdely?
I was going to mention that some of the work has already begun. Unlike water sleeving, or freshwater pipes, that has to be done during the, let's say, the spring, summer, and fall. Sewer sleeving can be done during the winter, so some of the work has already begun. Those residents will have received notices, and for more information, you go to our city website.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And now we move on to item number 11E, extra work for the dog run. Councilor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the city hereby approves the change orders for additional work under Project C-0417C for contractor services related to the construction of a Nature Path dog run, and authorizes payment of an amount not to exceed $9,912 plus applicable taxes to Les Entreprises Ventec Inc., that the described expenses shall be financed in whole from the city's working fund as a non-interest-bearing loan, that council shall provide every year out of its general fund a sum sufficient to repay the loan back into the working fund, that the terms of repayment shall not exceed 5 years, and that the city treasurer has issued a treasurer certificate, TC 18-0037, on February 5th, 2018, attesting to the availability funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councilor Erdely, seconded by Councilor Kajaski. Any discussion?
So just to mention briefly, when the contractor started working on the site of the new Nature Path Dog Run, which is located on Côte Saint-Luc Road, just west of Schwartz Park on the road to Meadowbrook, they discovered that there were a lot more tree stumps that they didn't see right away because they were under the grass, so it took extra work there. And there was also an extra volume or larger amount of stones and so on that had to be put down, or fill material that had to be put down. So all that to say, it reached a slight extra. And one more thing that will be done on the doors, because what we notice is the doors were not automatically closing, so there'll be springs that'll be put on each of the doors to cause them to close properly so that dogs won't escape. And obviously the safety of the dogs is of utmost importance.
Thank you, Councilor Erdely. Moved by Councilor Erdely, seconded. All in favor? we're doing the dog run vote, you're here. So all in favor on the dog run? Okay. You're,
Yeah,
I'll abstain.
yeah. What?
okay.
You can't abstain, you can vote for or against.
You can vote again.
You can vote against, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so, one opposing, Councillor Torchman dissenting. And now we move to urban planning. Councillor Kovac is the first one, 12A. Oh, you'll do it, but you'll, go ahead. Councillor Burko, would you lower the screen?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program received December 7th, 2018, showing material modifications to the front facade of a detached single-family dwelling on lot 1561088 at 5585 Robinson for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of December 7th, 2017. So my first date was 2017, not 2018. Be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc. And you can see the site plan basically involves a modification to the materials of the front facade. The redwood panels will be replaced with dark brown aluminum siding, as well as new front windows and a new front door. Okay, and so that was approved by the PAC, and I propose that it be approved here as well.
Seconded by Councillor Kovac. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Okay. 12.28.
Second item is minor exemption for 634 Smart. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 634 Smart, lot 1290649, be and is hereby approved. The whole is more amply delineated hereunder. The request is to allow an existing single-family semi-detached dwelling built in 1955 to be located 13.97 feet or 4.26 meters from the front land line instead of the minimum required front setback of 4.57 meters, a difference of about 30 centimeters. The whole notwithstanding the provisions of zoning bylaw 2217 Annex B. This is basically to give it an exemption. The request, hang on, I think I have more to read. No, that's it. Okay.
Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by Councillor Erdely. All in favor? Well, any discussion? Further discussion?
No, it's really a minor exemption to allow the property to be 30 centimeters closer to the front property line, the front land line, instead of the minimum required. So this is quite standard minor exemption that we approved at this council.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried.
Next is 5771 Jubilee. Be it resolved in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 5771 Jubilee be and is hereby approved. The whole is more amply delineated hereunder. The request is to allow an existing single-family detached dwelling to have 2 exterior doors leading to the basement instead of 1 exterior door leading to the basement.
Moved by Councillor Burton, seconded by...
Can I second that one, please?
Sure, Councillor Cohen. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Next one, Councillor Burton.
Next is the, hang on, Caldwell. Okay. Do you want me to read it? Yeah, okay, go ahead. I'll do it. This is with regard to 5789 Caldwell, the new project that is going to be built behind the Caldwell residences. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 5789 Caldwell be and is hereby approved, the whole as more amply delineated hereunder. The request is to allow proposed multifamily dwelling to have a part of the rear visitor parking area located 2.09 meters from the building ground floor rear wall with window openings instead of the minimum distance of 3.05 meters from a multifamily dwelling ground floor wall with window openings. B, to have one proposed terrace for the Caldwell building to be located in the east side yard of the building at 1.92 meters from the east side land line instead of being located at the rear land line at a minimum required distance of 4.57 meters from the side land line. And C, to have one proposed terrace for the Kahila, that's a new project proposed building, to be located in the east side yard of the proposed building at 2.74 meters from the east side land line instead of being located at the rear of the building and at the minimum required distance of 4.57 meters from the side land lines. The whole, notwithstanding provisions of the zoning bylaw 2217, Articles 4-4-5D and 7-2-9 of the City Code.
Moved by Councillor Burke, seconded by Councillor Torchman.
Councillor
Any
Gordon.
discussion?
Yeah, so basically, this, as you can see from the plan, we are approving the part of the rear visitor parking area to be located a little closer to the building than is allowed by the bylaw, but it doesn't have any impact on the building itself. To also, where's this? The second item is to have a terrace for the Caldwell building to be located on the east side, again, 6 feet from the east side land line instead of 15 feet. So again, it's not a major impact. And to have one proposed terrace for the Kahila proposed building to be located on the east side at 9 feet instead of 15 feet. So it's just to allow for these terraces and for this parking to be located in proximity to the proposed building. It really has no impact on the neighbors whatsoever, and so the minor exemptions are deemed to be reasonable, acceptable, and to be adopted by the council.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? Go ahead. Someone's opposed?
No,
Anyone opposed? Okay, so now we move to item D, Emerson.
Okay. Be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-005, the request for minor exemption regarding the property located at 6860 Emerson, lot 156-1832, be and is hereby approved. The request is to allow an existing single-family detached dwelling built in 1966 under permit number 2491 to be located at 4.46 meters from the front land line instead of the minimum required front setback of 6.09 meters when facing a public right-of-way. The whole notwithstanding the provisions of zoning bylaw 2217 Annex B, zone RU 32.
Moved by Councillor Burke, seconded by Councillor Emerson.
Right.
Torchman.
Okay, so again, this is simply to allow a single-family dwelling to be a little closer to the front land line than the original bylaw, than the original zoning bylaw required, and again poses no impact to the immediate neighborhood. And the building was constructed with a permit at the time in 1966, so it qualifies for a minor exemption.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. We move to the final item of minor exemptions.
Okay. So here, it's a little different. 7935, 7937 Mackle. Then in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 7935, 7935, 7937 Mackle, lot 1052484 B and is hereby approved. That items A and B be approved and item C is refused, and I will be more specific. The request is to allow an existing two-family semi-detached dwelling built in 1965 under permit 2355 A, to be located 3.78 meters from the southeast side land line instead of the minimum required setback of 3.96 meters, so it's a difference of 20 centimeters. Not a big deal, so we approve that. To be located at 5.06 meters from the rear land line instead of the minimum required setback of 5.82 meters, 0.82, so again, a difference of centimeters. So again, we approve that, but we are refusing to have the concrete rear balcony at the ground floor level with a basement room underneath. We're refusing to approve that request, which is part of the proposed request. So we approve items A and B and not C.
Thank you, Councillor Bercu. So moved and seconded. All in favor? Was it seconded? Seconded by Councillor Gajal.
Yeah.
All in favor? No one opposed? Carried. And now, we will move on to item 13, Councillor Kovac.
Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc takes the following stance in view of any agglomeration council meetings to be held in March 2018 as follows: to authorize the mayor or his duly authorized replacement to make any decisions he deems necessary and in the best interest of the city of Côte Saint-Luc and its residents regarding the items on the agenda of the agglomeration council meeting to be held in March 2018 based on the information to be presented during those meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Sabag. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move to the added item under other business, the adoption of an agreement with Urgence Santé. Councillor Sabag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby authorizes the city to enter into an agreement with the Corporation d'Urgence Santé entitled Protocole d'entente entre la Corporation d'Urgence Santé et la Ville de Côte Saint-Luc pour son service de premier répondant, also known as agreement, consisting of 10 pages plus 3 annexes. That council further authorizes any of the city manager, the associate city manager, the general counsel, or the director of public safety to sign the agreement that gives effect to the foregoing.
Moved by Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion? Councillor Sabag?
This is simply, as you all know, we have a pre-hospital emergency service here that we're very proud of, and this requires us to have an agreement with Urgence Santé and the city of Côte Saint-Luc. So this is this authorizes essentially the directors to sign this agreement with Urgence Santé.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move into the second question period on items on the agenda. Any questions on the agenda? Mr. Garrett. So Charles Garrett, Côte Saint-Luc resident. We have his address.
I just wanted to ask just a quick question, 2 questions on kind of procedures, so I just understand. Today, you approved about $7.7 million of loans. In addition, there was also a refinancing of a $2 million loan.
Yes.
And your capital budget for the year is $10 million. First of all, do these loans tag on to the existing, I think we have $65 or $70 million debt loans that are carried forward for infrastructure?
Sure, Councillor Erdeler.
And the last few years, the city of Côte Saint-Luc has actually reduced,
Council, thank you.
Okay. In the last few years, the city of Côte Saint-Luc has actually reduced the amount of money we owe by about $10 million.
Oh, okay.
Part of it is we've done a few things differently. The way it had been when I started, we used to borrow the money right away. So, for example, today we adopted these loan bylaws. The way it had been in the past, the city would borrow the money today, for example, or within a few weeks of passing this loan bylaw. What happened was often the tender would come in at less than, let's say, the actual bid or the estimated amount, and we would, let's say, as I mentioned earlier in the evening, we are paying now installments for, let's say, the work done in Trudeau Park, the work done on the underpass, and so on, because the way the contracts often work, we pay out in several installments. So the way it had been in the past, the city of Côte Saint-Luc would borrow prematurely, if I may say, and would be carrying those loans, carrying the interest, and so on. So we've tried to be more strategic, if I may, with how we borrow money. So that being said, we've managed to cut down on the amount of money we borrow. We also, just to mention, as we'll be talking about, as the mayor alluded to earlier in the evening, and as we'll be talking about in the next few months, once we get our 2017 audited financial statements, the city has a decent-sized surplus of approximately $6 million. So that is something we can use partly as well for projects to I guess, reduce the amount of money we have to borrow. All that to say, we've been trying to be as frugal as we can. So even though we adopt these loan bylaws tonight, to clarify, it doesn't necessarily mean we will borrow the amount. We may borrow it. And some of them, for example, let's say, as I think it was Councillor Kajavsky mentioned earlier, so some of the projects, for example, we pass a loan bylaw, but they're actually financed by the tech grant. So the TCQ, that's the gas tax. So just to give you an example, that pays the city $9.5 million over a 4-year period from 2014 to 2018. And I don't see the representative from the provincial government here anymore, but our hope is that there will be a new tech grant from starting in 2019, because we're the last year of this current grant. Hopefully it'll even be more money, more generous. But, so it works out to approximately $2 million and change per year, which the city can use to finance infrastructure projects. So all that to say, the goal long-term is to continue doing work on the city's infrastructure, but to try to be as strategic as possible to avoid borrowing prematurely and to avoid borrowing large amounts of money, and to try to pay when we can, either through our surplus or through our working fund, which is in effect a way of us borrowing from ourselves. And when we do that, of course, we don't have to pay interest.
And one other question, just a procedural thing I just don't understand. If I walk into a car dealership and I have $50,000 in my pocket, and the guy I'm buying a car from knows that $50,000 is going to try to sell me a $50,000 car. When the city approves a loan for $262,000 for a particular thing, isn't that telling the people who are doing the tenders, this is how much money they have in their pocket? We should target our tenders for something around that amount?
Well, obviously, if you want to get the bid, you're going to have to hope to bid lower, but high enough to cover your costs. So we have professional services check what we estimate projects will cost, but then when people bid on them, if they want to get the contract, they're going to hopefully have to bid a little bit lower. So we have to have enough money, but as Councillor Lee has said in the past, we've often received bids below our loan, so we don't loan, and we've closed a lot of open loan bylaws in order to reduce our debt.
And if I can add one more point, often what we'll try to do is group different projects into one loan bylaw. So let's say for vehicles, they may know that the total amount is, $1 million for all these vehicles, for let's say 10 different vehicles. Now, some of them are snow blowers, which are worth much more than, let's say, a pickup truck. So they don't necessarily know how much we have allocated for each specific vehicle. That's information we don't share.
Okay. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I like to be an educated citizen.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Benoit. Eric Benoit, Côte Saint-Luc resident, and we have his address on file. It's okay.
Thank you all. I just have a quick question concerning 6C, which is bylaw 2500, concerning the Cavendish Boulevard corridor, traffic lights, and LED street lights. Is the LED street lights just for Cavendish, or is it just a project as a whole? Because it seems like you're going to hire professional services, which I think is a great idea, LED lights, but I just want to know what the scope is exactly of that project.
So if I may, this is for two projects. One of them is with regard to Cavendish Boulevard and the traffic corridor. The other is with regard to LED streetlights, and it's LED streetlights for the entire city of Côte Saint-Luc. So in Côte Saint-Luc, there are approximately 3,000 streetlights. We have, if you notice, there's two different kinds that predominate. One are what we call the Cobra heads that are on the main streets, such as Cavendish, sections of Kildare, sections of Mackle, and then there are what we call the cubes, which you'll see often on the side streets. So those are the two main kinds. So what we're looking for is a professional service. So this would be a consultant who would help us with the transition to LED lights. The LED lights would, I should say the purchase of LEDs would be a separate contract, and that would be most likely in 2019. So for 2018, it's to hire a consultant to work with us on figuring out the best fit. And obviously there's different options because we have different types of lights. And if you think as well, in District 1, for example, we have even a different style of street lights there as well. So there's at least 3 different street lights that you'll see in the city of Côte Saint-Luc. So again, so it's for the entire city.
Okay, so if I understand, the plan is to switch. It's just a question of which technology to use.
Exactly. Which technology, what type, what's the best fit? If I can share, this is something that I've been trying to push for the last few years. The technology continues to improve. We have engineers in the city, but obviously they're not necessarily experts in the field of LED lighting. So this is to have a consultant work with the city engineers to find the best fit for Côte Saint-Luc.
If I may, if you don't mind. So do you guys have like some kind of report that says this is how much we're spending on electrical bills right now for the lights, and this is how much we're going to save with the LED lights? I don't know if there's anything of that sort available.
So if I may, we don't have a full report, but I can tell you what we have done in the last few years is we've had a few meetings with Hydro-Quebec. One of the things, and I believe Councillor Burke was there, I think Councillor Kovac, some of the members of our audit committee were there. We met with a representative of Hydro-Quebec because I can tell you as the councillor responsible for the finance portfolio, I oversee and sign off on all the hydro bills, and the hydro bills it's probably about 100 to 200 pages long, our hydro bills, that you can only imagine. And even though I'm quite learned in math and science, even I had some difficulty with the bills, so we had a representative from Hydro who met with us to go over the bills and explain to us how we could save money. And we looked at different scenarios, and of course one of them is by going with LED lights. And obviously the goal is long-term to save money, and we're continuing to work on this. But like I said, the consultant will help us with that project.
Thank you. Great initiative. Thank you.
So if there are no further questions, I'll ask for someone to move to the adjournment. Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Torgman. All in favor? You're opposed? Adjourned. Thank you all.